What do you want me to do? You just want me to hit you?
Come on, do me this one favor.
Why?
Why? I don't know why. I don't know. Never been in a fight. You?
No, but that's a good thing.
No, it is not. How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight. I don't want to die without any scars. So come on, hit me before I lose my nerve.
Oh, God, this is crazy.
She'll go crazy. Let her rip.
Hey, I don't know about this.
I don't either, but who gives a shit? No one's watching. What do you care?
Wait, this is crazy. You want me to hit you?
That's right.
What, like in the face?
Surprise me.
This is so fucking stupid.
Oh. Motherfucker! You hit me in the ear!
Well, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Ow! Christ! Why the ear, man?
Ah, I fucked it up.
No, that was perfect. Oh! Ah!
Hello and welcome to Versus, Two Films Enter, One Films Leave, the movie review podcast where we pit two movies of a similar premise against each other. My name is Dave, and with me as always are my associates Kevin.
Alright, what's up?
And Graham.
Hell yeah.
On this episode we're going to be doing Terminator 2 versus Looper, two time travel movies. And that was a similar premise with those. But we were discussing this previously before we started recording. It goes a bit deeper than just time travel. Kev or Graham, do you guys want to divulge a little bit on that? Because there was a lot more similarities than that I didn't pick up that you guys did. So,
well, time travel. But the whole point of time travel is someone from the future has been sent back in time to kill a child in the present. And the reason for that is because that child becomes something bigger, badder, and they have a meaningful life in the future. In the case of Looper, they're actually changing how that child's life will be in the sense of, because he becomes what's called the Rainmaker, which we'll discuss it later on when we're reviewing that, who is basically a bad guy, kind of, and they're trying to change it that he's a good guy. And in Terminator, it's John Connor who will lead the resistance against the machines in the future, and Skynet has sent back a Terminator to eradicate him. That's kind of
there's a lot of free will versus fate in both of them, and I suppose that's the existential bullshit of that. Sorry, that's just a bit harsh.
It's funny
I love the two of them, but
it's funny how often the word bullshit follows the word existential. Anyway, so we'll get kicked off. Anyway, Graham, do you want to give us a rundown of Terminator 2 and what we're dealing with here?
Yeah, it's the sequel to The Terminator, obviously, because it has two at the end of it. So, basically, if Terminator... I'm going to have to run through Terminator 1. Terminator 1, a robot called the Terminator is sent back in time to kill Sarah Connor because she will give birth to John Connor, who I said earlier will lead the resistance against the machines in the war of the future. This Terminator fails with the help of Kyle Reese, who's a soldier who's sent back by John Connor in the future. Kyle Reese ultimately dies, and Sarah Connor gives birth to John, and she basically travels around the United States and North America making, I suppose you could say, military friends.
Yeah.
Associates, so safe houses, contacts, learning how to use weapons, different things like that, and combat tactics and strategies. So Terminator 2 kicks off basically with a young John Connor in a foster home and Sarah Connor in a mental asylum. And the whole gist is a new type of Terminator has been sent back this time to kill John Connor and the T-1000, and the Terminator from the previous film, the T-800, has been reprogrammed and is now sent back as a good Terminator to protect John Connor at all costs. And that's basically where it goes from. Yeah.
So I remember upon watching it back there recently. Now, I didn't see it in the cinema back when, but I do recall while watching it, it's not immediately obvious that the T-1000 is necessarily a Terminator and the T-800 is the good guy.
Yeah.
So it's actually a massive twist. So if you recall, they got back to the shopping centre and John is running away from the cop towards as it transpires, the T-800 says, get down or whatever, and it's actually a massive
scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, now I know I'm kind of jumping forward a bit in terms of, say, setting, and obviously Arnie was that charismatic and major at that point in Hollywood that the only way for him to get bigger was to become the good guy.
Yeah,
but it was just masterful. It was just excellent. And
it was a really good tone.
It was just great
because John Connor is portrayed as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And he the first kind of thing you see of him is he's souping up this like scrambler bike in his garage, and his foster mother's like, your dinner's ready or something like that.
He just wants him to clean his room.
Yeah, and he just blows off and he's like, fuck you.
Yeah. And Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, look how cool I am listening to this one Guns N' Roses song for the entire movie. But yeah, so you think that's why this cop is after him?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
What else do you like about it, Kev?
What else? Jesus, where do I start?
I mean, give us your pros and cons.
Yeah.
All right. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. Jesus.
Okay, you just instantly know. I didn't even finish the rest of it.
Yeah.
So you
just that bar.
Yeah, just that bar. It's fucking excellent. Like
I was watching it with my girlfriend, and at the start of it, they had that great music, and I was literally right in her face, and I was like, dun 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 dun
in her face.
You went out of your way to ruin her night.
Yeah.
Such as love. No, but that's been pilfered, and you just know exactly what we're talking about as soon as you hear that. The opening it's just fantastic. The practical effects, and it was so good that they had to go and make another 78 Terminator films. So
to try and
the practical effects
recapture.
It was great.
But without Jimmy Cameron, they weren't.
No way.
No, it was never going to work. As even in terms of that, I think that as a duology, if that is the term, they're so well self-contained. That by the end of this film, you don't need to have another Terminator.
No,
because spoiler alert. They obviously prevent Judgment Day, or do they? But the way it's just perfectly composed. As well as that, they have a compelling villain. I mean, the T-800 and the T-1000 are inextricably linked because they're both emotionless. They're both machines, but the protagonist is obviously vastly outgunned, and you're just instantly at a fever pitch the whole time. So John has to get away from the T-1000 at all points. The T-800 has to protect him at all points. There's your film. You don't need to do much more after that. It writes itself. It's just a chase. It's relentless, and every scene after that is just it's on fire. It's great. It's Terminator 2. It's one of the best action films ever made. You know this, but we'll keep going. Like I said, Arnie was at the height of his power. I just think the only way for him to go forward was to become the good guy. Funnily enough, at this point, he's been the good guy in more Terminator films than the bad guy. So, I thought as well. There's a great, if you remember, the reintroduction of Sarah. Up until this point, I think in the insane asylum, they're showing John's interpretation of what his mother is. So she's just a loon. She's absolutely crazed. She's some fringe lunatic. So there's this shot of, I think it's what's the doctor's name? Doctor.
Oh, I can't remember.
It doesn't really matter. He's from the first. He's
in all three films.
He's actually in all three films.
Silverman.
Yeah. Sorry. So Dr. Silverman. This is how you do exposition in a film. He's basically reintroducing Sarah Connor while logically talking to his students about her. So
it's artfully done.
It's artfully done. Excellent. It's masterful. So she's doing pull-ups. Now compare that.
And sorry to cut across again, but it's actually that scene is fantastic because it really kind of puts across the point of Sarah Connor being almost the protagonist, because she's in this cage, she's locked in this cage, and the students are looking in on her as if she's some sort of test subject. To add on to that,
there's a massive. She's already had an arc in between the two films, and just
the difference in Sarah Connor and Linda Hamilton from 1 and 2.
They're completely different characters.
Look at 1, she's got that a whole bottle of hairspray in
The
her hair.
poofy hair, and she's all damsel in
and
distress.
this she's
kind
got
of.
straight-
damsel in distress.
And fair play to Linda Hamilton.
Lionel Hutz. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Let me just catch my breath. Fair play for her because I was reading up that she like cut so much body weight to make it that she was basically
Lean.
starving herself in the asylum, like to the like eating the bare minimum because she was trying to protest and didn't want to be there. And you could, when she was doing those pull-ups, she was shredded.
Yeah. She was shredded.
And I was like, this is a completely different character to the first time we seen Sarah Connor.
She was a warrior woman at that point.
Yeah,
and you knew instantly, and it was just
she's
cinematic excellence. Yeah. So you know, show not tell. As well as that, there's an orderly. There's an orderly in it. Like, he's in everything, right? There's
Bubbles.
Bubbles, right? So he's in Seinfeld.
Does this actor play an orderly in all these things, or
well,
is he a weirdo?
Well, no. My theory was basically we do not know for a fact that these films are not interconnected. So he's in The Pursuit of Happiness, he's in Seinfeld, and he's in Terminator 2.
Don't completely sidetracking here.
Go for it.
But have you ever heard of? I can't remember the character's name. I'll get it for the next time. But it's this theory about this that every single TV show takes place in the exact same.
Yeah, I've heard
The
this,
newspaper and stuff.
It's this something hospital. It's I can't remember the name. But anyway, basically the very last episode, it zooms out, and the entire series has been taking place in the mind of an autistic child, and basically. This show has had a lot of crossovers with like Cheers and NYPD Blue, and then they've had crossovers with X-Files and blah 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 and films, and basically the entire fictional television and movie universe takes place in the mind of an autistic child. It's amazing. They have a spreadsheet and it shows who every show is linked, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But go back to this order. Sorry for the crossover, but it's
I'm not sorry.
It's an interesting theory, but back to the freaky orderly.
The freaky order.
Freaky order. That's
like I'm saying this as a pro. I don't know if it's a pro. It was something I noticed. He's just omnipresent. So
I had the unfortunate
experience of being an orderly.
No. Experience of watching it, and literally the only moment my mum was in the same room I was watching it was when he was licking Sarah Connor's face in the bed. And she was like, "What type of movie are you watching?" I was like,
That's not the first time your ma's walked in on an awkward part of a...
No, she didn't walk in on that period bit, but I was I was scared she would.
Okay, alright.
For context, listen to our last episode. That's just not... Yeah. Okay.
I love the fact that you're trying to explain it away when it's just what you just said. So there's no more context.
Yeah, zero context.
But up until like your man licks her, like
yeah.
She's an absolute psychopath. Like they have no reason to think she's not an absolute nutter.
Yeah,
so,
they think she believes in these time traveling robots who have like can tear their flesh off and they're. Yeah.
So she want the calm down a bit. Just if she was to go back, I'd say she'd have a different tactic about how to get out of. But just the camera work and editing throughout.
Oh,
right?
it's
it's just his Cameron.
Yeah,
it's like
it's Cameron in his heyday as well. Like when he was at his arguably his best.
Yeah.
Although, excuse me, I would argue the point that James Cameron has never made a bad film.
Yeah, he's made some average films.
He made some average films, I think.
Well, above average.
Yeah.
But I think Michael Bay wants to be him and just doesn't have the intellectual capacity to do so. Yeah. I just think he's
Michael Bay just blows stuff up.
Yeah, and he doesn't have. There's no real heart and soul as to why.
Exactly.
Was there anything you didn't like about Terminator?
Yeah, I didn't like the T-1000's ears that much.
That's a pretty small gripe.
Yeah, it's a minor gripe, you know.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Just like get a bit of plastic surgery, like just to that grand pointy top, like.
Yeah. Look, we can nitpick, but I think there's little problems here and there in terms of the plot itself. Not in terms of the pacing or the tone.
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that happening? Yeah. Well, minor plot holes. Maybe we can talk about them later. Comparing the two.
I'll have a few things to.
They're time travel films. Yeah. It'd be weird if they weren't. It's 10 out of 10. Seriously.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, for me, I thought Terminator 2 was an absolute crock of shit. No, I'm only joking. It was brilliant. It was just. It's an amazing movie. I kind of echo a lot of the sentiment that Kev has in terms of the quality of the camera work and the music. That, like, I'm just going to say it again, that whole scene in the corridor in the shopping mall, air quotes, and like he pulls the shotgun out of the box of roses, and they fall to the ground, and he steps on them. And it's just completely insinuating that this guy is also about to fuck up John Connor's shit. Like,
there's someone coming from both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
He is implacable. He is relentless.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Then you get that classic line that "get down."
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, you know what? Just to add to your whole thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger, personally, I don't think he's the best actor in the world. I don't think he's very good, obviously.
I don't think anybody
But you know
is.
what? The T-800 is the absolute perfect role for that guy.
Yeah.
It is his acting as a robot is unbelievable. There's a scene in the car where John Connor is trying to teach him the colloquialisms and like the different
vernacular.
The vernacular of the, you say "hasta la vista, baby," and you say "chill out, man," and he starts copying it, and he adapts to it, and he says, and he just does it perfectly. And even towards the end of the movie, when they're attacking the Cyberdyne headquarters, and he turns around and he has a little smile on his face, and it's such a robotic smile. And he's like, "I'll be back," It's
the same line he used in the first one.
Yes.
Before causing absolute fucking mayhem.
Yeah. It's really funny throughout, actually, like you're saying.
There's so many laughable bits in it.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like you were saying, Graham, Linda Hamilton it's just an absolute tour de force of acting in that movie. I thought she was
writing the director, so you know yourself.
That's very true, actually. I completely forgot about
was
that.
Arnie.
No, but
It's not fair.
That's libel, Kev. We can't say that. No, it's not. That's on.
It is libel.
No, that's
Untrue.
in written, isn't it?
No, it's
No,
untrue.
there's
It's complete waffles.
slander.
Slander.
Yeah.
Slander. It's only slander if it's not true.
No, actually, that creates more merit for her because she was riding the director, so didn't need to actually work her ass off, get in such good shape.
But
and
she
act
still
her ass
did.
off, and she did.
Yeah.
She had that role regardless.
Yeah.
But she,
Yes. Yeah.
And there's another great bit. There's another great piece of cinematography when they're breaking into the insane asylum, and Linda Hamilton, she's reached pretty much a dead end, or Sarah Connor, her character, has reached a dead end, and she doesn't know where to go. And all of a sudden, the elevator opens, and she makes her a run for it. And you just slow motion. Arnie steps out in his fucking leathers and his sunglasses, and she's freaking out. She doesn't even hear her son screaming, "Mom, Mom, Mom!" Like, it's not until about 5 minutes later that she even realizes John is there, and it's amazing. And as well as, like,
You're engrossed.
Yeah,
You're
and I'm
absolutely
going to keep
engrossed.
going about the amazing kind of iconic scenes, and one of them is at the start when he walks into the biker bar in a nip. It's like, I need your boots, your clothes, and your motorcycle. It's
you forgot to say please.
Yeah.
and he
I
just
can't let you take it, son. Yeah, remember the guy?
and he takes the sunglasses out of his pocket and he just puts them on.
Yeah.
That whole that scene was where he puts the sunglasses on. Like that scene stuck with me for so much of my life. It's just it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
I think
it
it's just it really kind of gets the character across. Obviously he doesn't have much of a character, but you know what I mean. He just doesn't, just his coolness essentially.
It's Arnie.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a cool motherfucker. Like he is.
I'm going to kind of go into maybe one or two negatives that I didn't like about Terminator 2.
Go for it.
And guys, feel free to challenge me on this stuff. But I could not stand Edward Furlong. Now, granted, he's a young child actor. This is pretty much his first movie, I believe.
It was.
But we're about to compare a young child actor versus an even younger child actor. And now I'll reserve my opinions on that other child actor until we actually do Looper. But holy fucking shit. Edward, I know this was released in 1991, and there's certain dialogue in it that kind of does feel dated a little bit. But
he basically is like a Bart Simpson.
Yeah, exactly.
Chill out, man.
There's a bit where Sarah Connor, where Sarah Connor's she's at their legging it from the little camp she's there with the Mexicans or the Spanish. I know it's going to sound really racist, but I don't know, Nicaraguans maybe. No, but they were in Nicaragua for a while.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And the way he pronounces Nicaragua when he's telling them, he's like Nicaragua. Like, Shut up, Edward Furlong.
Dave, well done. I'm gonna go back and watch it because of what you just said.
Sarah Connor is after legging it from the camp, and she's going to kill your man Dyson, right? And then all of a sudden, Edward Furlong or John Connor pieces it together, and he's talking to the Terminator about it, and he's like, "She's gonna blow him away." And I was like, "Whoa, that is fucking some cringeworthy dialogue right there," you know. And there was
it might be what apparently 10-year-old child would say. He looks so much older than 10 years of age.
Yeah. You can hear, sorry to cut it. There's actually there's a scene where they're fixing a car or something.
Yeah,
and you can hear his voice breaking.
Oh, really?
No way.
And then that was definitely filmed earlier on than
in the production.
Yeah. So like, you know, during the timeline of the film, he has a deeper voice earlier on, and then when they're fixing the car, you can definitely hear it breaking.
I wouldn't challenge your Edward Furlong hate, but I actually was pretty surprised by how much I didn't hate him, if that makes sense. Because I was like, when I sat down to watch it, I was like, I have a bias against Edward Furlong because I don't like him as an actor in general. He doesn't know how to remove his teeth from one another. He speaks like with his teeth stuck together. Yeah. So like in American History X and all that, I just had no time for him. But then when I watched it, I was like, I actually hated him a lot less than I expected. But in saying that,
I know you haven't said
me.
You haven't said liked.
Yeah. I just hated less. Yeah.
He's less shit than I anticipated.
And the only other major kind of down point I had, and now this is gonna be nitpicky, I think.
Go for it.
But you know, so Dyson has been studying this kind of futuristic chip and the Terminator arm for a few years now. They don't know where it came from, right? They don't know. They haven't got a clue where it came from.
Dyson doesn't anyway. Cyberdyne, I believe.
Yeah, well, Dyson doesn't anyway. Yeah, and all of a sudden, a completely functioning, like kind of cybernetic organism shows up in his house and shows him. He pulls off the skin off his arm and shows him the robotic arm. And they tell him he's from the future. His instantaneous belief of that story kind of brought me out of it a little bit.
Well, they didn't show how long they explained it to him for.
That's true, but how can you? Like, it could have been more than 3 hours.
They did a little montage, I know, but I know what you mean. Look, if
it
took you out,
it took me out of it.
Fairness, though, if this mad board who looks like 40-year-old Sonia Blade burst into your gaff, right?
True, yeah.
And we had a gun, you just go, oh yeah, I believe you. You're not gonna like just let her shoot your child or whatever, you know. You're just gonna like you're gonna destroy your
funny
shit,
story.
Like.
Sorry, keep on.
Another thing about that scene as well that kind of brought me out of it, and admittedly, I was watching the movie with a bit of a critical eye because you know I had to kind of
kind of looking at
looking for stuff to like or stuff that I didn't like. So Sarah Connor tries to kill Dyson with a sniper rifle. She misses multiple times because Dyson's son interrupts. His name is Danny, and we know this because Dyson has already called to him saying, "Danny, get out of here, get out of here." And then John and the Terminator follow soon after, probably about maybe 45 seconds afterwards.
Yep.
And the Terminator is about to show Dyson and his wife the robotic arm, and John goes over to Danny and says, "Come on, Danny, show me your room." Danny has not told anyone his name. He's just been in the background the entire time. That's very small as well. But what
it's a nitpick, and
it is nitpicking.
I have a few nitpicks myself.
But in saying that, these nitpicks are some of the only faults that I can find with this excellent movie. Yeah, excellent movie.
Is that you?
Yeah. No,
okay, so it's on to me then.
Yeah.
Oakley dokley. Yeah, positives. I think the music we've covered that.
Yeah.
The CGI
very well ahead of its time.
The CGI. The Terminator at the time it came out was the most expensive movie ever made at that time.
Yeah. It was 94 million was the budget.
That's even pretty expensive by today's standards.
In comparison, Looper had a 30 million budget.
Wow.
Yep.
And 21 years later, I believe. Yeah.
Well, 21 years later. Yeah.
30 million. Jeez. No. Sorry.
Did well off that, but when we get to Looper, we'll talk about that. But the CGI, you can tell why it cost. It was the most expensive movie ever made by 1991, and it was
even the car chase at the start through the LA River, like or whatever the equivalent of it was. It was amazing.
No, first off, that was practical.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it was so good.
I love. I'm always going to be a fan of practical over CGI any day of the week. But this CGI, especially for 1991, was another level.
Yeah.
not the boy band. Just it was unbelievable. One scene in particular was after they'd attacked Cyberdyne. T-1000 was on his bike and goes out the window and crashes into this helicopter and then loafs his way into the helicopter, right? Which is pretty badass in the first place. But he just makes like a head-sized hole and then liquefies and goes into the seat beside the pilot. But from the camera angle, when he re-solidifies into a human form, you can see the pilot's astonished face reflecting off it, and I was like, that is amazing stuff. It was really good. Yeah.
And then what he said, he's like, get out.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
That's a bit of a nitpick because he blatantly murdered and slaughtered every other person who got in his way, and he gave that lad
a pass
for no reason.
We could nitpick more. Why was he on the bike in the building?
Yeah,
because
it's cool to drive upstairs on the bike. Yeah, that's fair enough. It's an absolute nitpick. CGI is unbelievable. Yeah. Linda Hamilton is unbelievable. Like we said, underrated is the lad who played Dyson. I thought he was great.
He was very good.
The bit where he's holding the trigger, or the thing over the trigger, and he's like, I don't know. And that death scene, excellent. That death scene was phenomenal. I was just like,
bit of trivia for it.
Yeah.
The head of the SWAT team, Hank Schrader.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Even when he had the mask on, you could still notice it was Hank Schrader.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was Dean Norris because you could, even when he ran it, you could tell it was kind of him.
Yeah.
Also, second movie he's been with Arnie. He was also in Total Recall the year before, but he had like
as Mars
a vagina.
I remember him. I remember in Total Recall. All right,
it looked like a vagina for an eye.
It did. Yeah.
Well, that was his character's name.
Vagina for an eye.
For an eye. For an eye is a second name. Like.
Vagina for an eye.
Mr. Furreneye. Vagina, I believe. Yeah,
come with vagina.
Fuck's sake. The CGI again at the end when T-1000 gets frozen by because he's driving that cyber whatever. I don't know.
Liquid nitrogen.
Cryogenic.
The liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, and he gets frozen and shattered but then when he heats up, he goes back together again.
Sorry, can I cut across you for a second? Yeah. I thought that was a brilliant false finish.
Yeah.
If he kind of
false
related to a wrestling term, like it was an
it is a false finish. Yeah,
he says because that's when he says "Hasta la vista, baby,"
and shoots the rocket at him,
and blows him up, and you think it's over.
Yeah,
but then it's not.
You think they're going to destroy the chip on the arm in the molten rock or lava, whatever it is, in the steelworks factory they're in, and then he comes back, but his shape shifting abilities have gone a bit awry. So anytime he touches something metal, he turns kind of. So you see him like he stands on one of those yellow and black, kind of striped hazard things, and his whole leg goes that color, and then he holds a rail, and his whole arm goes the color of the rail, and things like that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and it looked really good. And the whole thing of there's the real Sarah Connor and the fake Sarah Connor, and then that's how John can differentiate because he sees the fake one's feet have gone the color of the metal, and he's able to attack her. I think the CGI was probably the best thing about this film. Yeah. I'm going to bring a conflict here.
Okay, it is.
I didn't like the comedy at all.
Didn't like the comedy?
No time for it. If you watch the first Terminator, it's a serious film.
Yeah, very
There's
serious.
no comedy. Couldn't stand the comedy. Couldn't stand the fucking Hasta la Vista babies and any of that shit. It really, maybe because Edward Furlong is a fucking twat.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Edward Furlong is a fucking twat.
I couldn't.
He's related to Vagina Headman. in actuality,
the scene you were talking about where he takes the glasses, it was cool. Don't get me wrong.
It's cheesy as fuck.
Oh, it's super cheesy.
But I'm just comparing. I probably shouldn't compare it to the first. But the first film is so scary.
Yeah. Yes.
And then
it's almost a slasher flick. The first film.
Yeah, where he takes the gun, and I'm like, it's fine that he doesn't kill him, but then the fact he goes to leave and then turns around back to the bartender, and then walks up, and then it plays Bad to the Bone. No, don't get me wrong. I didn't.
I take your point entirely.
Yeah, so of course.
Ironically, the only bit that made me smile was the bit where he was trying to smile and couldn't smile. I did go.
To quote.
No, I smiled at that because Arnie does that big, toothy, stupid thing. But I can't really find any other faults with it. the acting, the camera work, everything else. One nitpicky thing. Sarah gives out to John for breaking her out, and he starts crying. And Terminator turns around and goes, "Why are your eyes leaking?" And he's like, "It's nothing, it's nothing." And then literally less than 90 seconds later, he's healing up Sarah Connor's wound. Yeah. And she's like, "How do you know what?" He goes, "How do you know what you're doing?" He's like, "In my program, I have a full data on human anatomy." And I was like, "So, but not
you obviously don't understand tear ducts.
Yeah, like, that kind of was like, But then again, these are small things.
Exactly, it's all
do you know what I mean? It didn't make me go. It didn't make me go when he did the whole "see you later, dickwad" or whatever, or "chill out, dickwad."
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh no, the bit where he made him stand on his leg, on one leg.
Yeah,
fuck off. Oh, was that in your? Or was that my stupid extended version?
No, that was in the version.
You're stupid. You acted it out like
No
live production.
I watched the extended cut. I didn't just in my house going, "Chill out, dickwad," and then turn around and go, "Don't have a cow, man."
Your mom walks in like, "What are you doing this time?"
Yeah, but besides those little itsy bitsy teeny weeny things I pointed out, it is the closest to perfect movie you can get.
Yeah, I mean there are little. I will say actually, I feel this film is very it's very neat. Like it does exactly what it sets out to do.
Yeah.
It's very efficient. There's not much in terms of time waste, and every scene pretty much adds to the film at some point. It goes on.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was fucking incredibly successful at 519 million gross worldwide.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean,
with a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes as well.
What is there? There's I remember seeing pinball machines of it, arcade games.
Yeah.
Probably if you go to an arcade now, you'll still find a T2 game.
Yeah.
There's at least 2 video games for the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo. There's a theme park ride, and they're all still open, or maybe not the Mega Drive.
I went on one.
Yeah, like the Terminator 2 theme park ride or pinball machines or arcade games are all still around because it's still relevant, because it's such a good film and such a well remembered film. And I'd say cinema goers, people who've seen this in the cinema when it first released, lucky bastards.
Yes, definitely.
Because that was that's kind of like, let's say in 21 years someone's doing a podcast and they're talking about Mad Max Fury Road or something.
Yeah.
That's I think that's a once in a lifetime kind of film.
Yeah.
And I think Terminator 2 is as well. Especially, you have all that CGI shit, and obviously that CGI costs nothing nowadays. I mean, even a few years later, what's it? The Adventures of Alex Mack on Nickelodeon. She was like a T-1000. She turned into that puddle and floated around. And it was the same CGI, same effects, but obviously a few years later. So obviously the cost of it dropped drastically. But to see that sort of thing for the first time is kind of fuck me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
we're all agreed that Terminator 2 was unrealistically great, but it is great.
Right now, so for our next film of the evening, we have Looper, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, and Kev is going to give us a rundown of what the story's about.
Yeah, so this film is set in 2044 initially. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis are actually playing the same character. Bruce Willis is the older version of a character called Joe. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is, I think he's a 20-something.
25.
He's 25 at the point of... Sorry, in 2044 he's the age of 25. So he's this kind of, for want of a better expression, an assassin. So at this point in time there is no time travel. But later on, in Joe's future, approximately 30 years later, time travel has been invented, but forensics is that advanced that they could always find the murderer. So what they do is they fire the person that's planned to be murdered back in time to be killed by the assassin. So
who's known as
a looper. The reason they're called loopers is so the end of their contract, they get sent back in time to be murdered. By themselves. So obviously, this is, again, ties in with the fate versus free will themes of Terminator. Right off the bat, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is, I suppose, he's playing a drug addict. he's very materialistic, but you know that's the world they live in, and the world they live in is very fleshed out. It feels very lived in. So you see things like there's loads of care to details. So for example, the currency is like silver. You know, that's different than nowadays. There's Obama. He's on the cash. If you saw that.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there's little things like that.
Cool.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that at all.
when they're taking drugs, they take them as eye drops.
Yeah.
Like they had to think about doing things like that. So he's part of this roving gang, and his boss is actually played by Jeff Daniels, and Jeff Daniels is fucking excellent.
Oh,
in
he's
this
so
film.
good.
I think he is
so good.
such a good villainous actor.
Yeah.
He just has such icy villainous presence.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just simmering below the surface. And he has a gang of, I think they're called Gatmen, isn't it?
Gatmen who
Gatmen,
Yeah. They were
different
very
to Loopers,
yeah.
The
They were
Loopers
ver-
use the blunderbuss.
Yeah, so Jeff Daniels' character was actually sent from their future back to oversee the Loopers.
the whole Looper system.
Yeah, the Looper system. And basically it takes off from there. So Joe's future self is actually sent back in time to close his contract out. So he was murdered initially by Joe. The main plot of the film is actually on the second loop, if you've noticed that.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's kind of difficult to put into
It is.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
very,
very-
very difficult movie
I
to
feel-
describe
I feel-
without
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
it.
yeah. You know, they actually notice that though, that they take, there's this interesting scene. I'm kind of going ahead of myself here, but basically on the second loop, older Joe goes back in time and actually prevents his own murder,
He does.
which was an excellent scene.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's this later on. There's this very interesting interaction between younger and older Joe in the diner, where they're talking about how even beginning to talk about time travel is a fallacy in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, so from that, it's basically it's a very loose framework for the story, which is basically Joe going out to assassinate himself. Older Joe actually has a love interest, and he is going back in time to try and prevent another layer to the plot in the form of the Rainmaker.
Who's a child at the time.
Yes.
Of 25-year-old Joe.
Yeah, 25-year-old Joe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of...
I might kick this off with my thoughts
Review,
if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that alright?
it's all right.
Yeah. I really, really like this movie. I saw this first when I was out in the cinema back in 2012. It was released in September 2012. And I went to see it. I think it was maybe a week after it was released, and I absolutely loved it. I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an actor as well, especially since his kind of his role in Inception. You know, when he kind of made a return to the mainstream. And was he in something before that?
He transferred away from the teeny bopper thing of like 10 Things I Hate About You and that crap.
Yeah.
And moved on to being a more serious actor. He wasn't like.
And he made the
500 Days of Summer,
transition
romance
very.
movies.
500 Days of Summer, yeah.
But it's more adult. It's a more.
Which is
serious.
another great movie, I think.
It is,
I really like 500
And
Days of Summer.
Brick as well, by the same director.
Never even
Yeah,
heard of
I
it.
knew there was another. I knew there was
pretty
another one.
I'll watch it later.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I thought it was a really good movie. There was a lot of stuff I liked about it. And just kind of leading off what Kev was talking about there about the detail, the attention to detail of the world that they're living in, I thought was fantastic. And namely, for one, the whole the vagrant uprising. Like, there's never any kind of serious attention paid to it. It's always just kind of mentioned in passing, which is exactly what you want, because it's not really core to the story, but it's core to the world that they're living in. Like, basically, so maybe, I don't know how many years ago, it's never really disclosed, but there was obviously an uprising of like homeless people or vagrants or whatever, and there was a big war or whatever, and there was like changes made because of that. So now people are real fearful of homeless people. And there's even a scene at the start of it where Joe's best friend Seth, I
Seth.
can't remember who plays him.
Paul
Can't remember-
Dano.
Is that his name? Paul Dano?
Paul Dano or Dano.
That was a great subplot.
It was a very good subplot.
Yeah.
It was a really good subplot. And like he has this really nice hover bike, or so he thinks. It won't even start. And like this homeless guy kind of walks up to me and he's like, "Fuck off! I have my gun here.
Around,
yeah, go around it."
Yeah.
Another thing that we actually didn't mention there was like the whole telekinetic ability thing. I'll come back to that because to be honest with you, that's going to be part of my not so much that I liked about it. But we'll come back to it.
I agree with that, but yeah, let's go.
before I go any further, I have to give a fucking shout out to the child actor who plays Sid. Pierce Gagnon. He's 10 years old, and holy shit,
Sid would later be the Rainmaker.
Who would later be the Rainmaker? Yeah, that kid. I was astounded by his acting abilities.
He was unreal.
He was amazing. You take someone who was how old could he have been? So it's 2012.
Is he 10 now?
He's 10 now. So he was 7.
Maybe not even 7. Maybe 6.
6 or 7. Yeah. And holy shit, he was so good. The way his relationship with Emily Blunt's character, and the kind of back and forth, and
also called Sarah.
Yeah. And it was just the way he'd go crazy. He's obviously a very temperamental child.
Also, maybe.
He's a very temperamental child, and kind of
he's very funny as well.
Yeah, definitely.
There's one part where something like she says, "Oh, what was it? Do you think I'm stupid?" And he says, "So." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was howling with laughter at
that. It was just like the whole movie as a kind of a single cohesive unit. I really, really enjoyed. But as soon as I kind of started to break it down a little bit, I found a lot of stuff that I did not like about it. One of those things being, I thought some of the acting was a little bit below par. And namely, your man, Boy Blue, was that his name?
Oh yeah, the
Kid
guy
Blue.
man.
Yeah, Kid Blue. Yeah. I didn't really like his character. He felt very forced, and obviously he becomes important towards the end of the movie where he comes back for Joe to try and make a name for himself.
It was a subplot too far.
I think so as well.
She merged him with Seth, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that,
and I thought because they're both pathetic.
I thought there was a lot of overflowing subplots, and that it kind of makes the movie very difficult to understand. And we're having difficulty explaining the movie here.
You can't explain it in 5 minutes.
You really need to watch this movie to understand it. One thing I actually did like about it, on the rewatch for this podcast, which I didn't like it when I first watched it, was the visual effects they did for Joseph Gordon-Levitt in his face to make him look much more like a young Bruce Willis.
Was that practical or CGI?
That was practical.
It was practical.
I completely agree with you there.
I didn't like it on the first watch, but then
better on the second watch. Yeah,
but it makes it. They were like, here, we want a good actor to play the young Joe, and they've got Bruce Willis as old Joe, so they're like, let's just make him look like Bruce Willis rather than, because no one's going to expect Joseph Gordon-Levitt to look like Bruce Willis when he becomes an owl.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So
method acting,
and even Joseph Gordon-Levitt's kind of mannerisms and his voice, it's real kind of gritty like Bruce Willis.
He had the laugh down with tea.
Oh, brilliant! It was excellent. And one other thing that I really liked about this movie, actually, back in that scene where they were in the diner. Yeah. When they first meet up, that scene is great. Anyway, there's the whole kind of he's speaking French to him, and he's like, I know you have a gun under under the table.
He's like, so I didn't bother learning Mandarin. He's like, no, but you go to China and all this.
But that's great as well. Yeah. But there's some music in the background by a guy called Warren Zevon, who is an amazing musician. He's this kind of rocker from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. He's dead now. He died from lung cancer back in 2002. But it's this song called Carmelita, and it's just about this guy looking for his kind of long lost love. But he's fucked up on heroin. That's and there's a line that he's like, but I'm all strung out on heroin on the other side of town. And I heard that song and I was like, holy, that is fucking apt for this scene. Obviously Bruce Willis is looking for, he's trying to get back to his loves, get back to
young Joe is strung out on heroin.
Yeah, exactly. But a few other things that I didn't like. Actually, to be honest, I'm having a hard time thinking of. I think my main gripe with this movie is the kind of the route that it takes. If you understand me, the way it goes from one point to another, it's quite confusing to the kind of, to someone who isn't kind of in the know of how stories are told. I'm looking to use the term average viewer. Because I'm more average than I'm just as average as anybody else, but I have a bit more kind of which it is a little bit complex. And in if you take a time travel movie, as we were talking about, Terminator 2, which is done really well, and a time travel movie with Looper, which is also done really well, but for its own specific reasons, it's just a little bit.
I think it falls down on its own logic in parts.
Yeah,
and Terminator 2 doesn't. and not that it was ever taken out of Looper, but it kind of came to a bit of a mass, and you take the sum of the parts, it's not as neat, like I was saying, as Terminator 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but I did really enjoy the ending.
Yeah.
I thought the ending was really nice. It was a nice kind of a closed loop, air quotes.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
I
where
thought
like
you said spider alert.
where obviously like, old Joe was about to kill the young Sid and prevent the Rainmaker from ever occurring, but then young Joe sees it and he kills himself so he's dead now in the past or in the future.
Actually, I'll talk about it when I give me a little review.
Oh no, well, to be honest with you, like that's pretty much that sums up my kind of feelings on the movie. It's a very difficult movie to comment on. I think I really do like it, and like I've obviously given you reasons why I do, but there's parts of it that I don't like.
Yes,
and it's difficult to nail down exactly what they are.
I have an idea as to what they are.
So I think the thing I liked the most about it, and the reason I went to see this in the cinema, was the trailer. Was the whole premise. Like, I thought the idea of they send people back in time and this guy kills them, and I thought that was cool enough. But then the fact he has to kill himself, I was like, that's just completely original. Never heard anything.
Very
like
original.
It. Yeah.
You have an instant plot.
It's really good. The whole reason he has to kill himself is because the mafia or whatever you want to call it,
the organised crime,
they don't want there being any loose threads or loose ends, whatever you want to call them. So they basically kill off everybody. The prosthesis on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face was excellent.
Very good.
That was perfect. Like you said, Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels was something
excellent.
Else.
He was really good. Emily Blunt's a name I've heard of a lot of times. But if you said to me, if you put a lot of pictures of women in front of me and goes, which one's Emily Blunt? I wouldn't have a
no, I think I would.
Careers. No way. Like, there's a few actresses and actors like that, but after this film, after rewatching the film, let's say, I'll definitely remember, because I was watching it for this, I was probably giving it a bit of extra attention, and I thought she was really good.
I have seen a few films with Emily Blunt, and I didn't like her in any of them, including like the 5-year Engagement, and a few others that I can't really think of off the top of my head, but I've seen her in at least 2 or 3 other movies. And
What's the one with Tom Cruise?
The Edge of Tomorrow, Lived I Repeat.
Yeah.
I have actually haven't seen that.
I haven't.
But I've heard good things. I've heard good things.
It's unreal.
Yeah?
Really?
Cool. I'll have to put it on my list. But Looper, watching her on Looper was like, holy shit, this girl is actually pretty good. She can fucking act.
It was really good.
Yeah.
The thing about movies today is there's nothing discerning about the CGI like there was in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can blatantly see when that liquid metal is CGI. But if you see generally a set, what do you call the shots? I can't remember. You know, like when they do a shot outside a building before they go into it, like to change the scene. I can't remember the name, but there's like a term, like a industry term name. But like all that scenery and the stuff around is probably CGI, but
you don't really notice.
You can't appreciate it then. People just go, "Oh, it's grand, yeah, it's just a set." Like, but you can't. And I'm sure it's brilliant, but like I said, you can't really appreciate it. But then when the CGI really comes into play is when Sid's telekinetic powers are truly shown, and
the Gatman in the house.
And he's going to let Joe go. He's like, I'm going to leave, get in my truck, and pretend I didn't see you here, and I'm going to go. But Sid, being 6 years of age,
doesn't he fall down the stairs?
He's coming down the stairs and he sees that Gatman, Jesse, I think his name is, pointing the gun at the man's head. Yeah. And he's kind of scared, and then he kind of slips. He kind of makes a noise, and Jesse gets started and points the gun at him, and that's when he trips down the stairs. And straight away,
what I liked about that though, straight away Jesse kind of pulls up as soon as he sees,
because he wasn't going to shoot a kid,
because he's not a bad guy.
He was going to let Joe go. He didn't want to kill his mate. Like, do you know what I mean? He was just doing his thing, and then what was great seeing was Joe's going to, like, Sid is falling down the stairs. It's all in like ridiculous slow motion.
This is a great scene, yeah.
And Joe is going, another thing, he has to stop him falling down the stairs, he could crack his head off the stairs or whatever. But then fucking Emily Blunt's character Sarah like spears him out the door, big rugby tackle or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it's just Jesse's gun comes out of his hand and the entire room lifts. And you notice there was no noise, no music, no anything.
There was a little kind of like a
Yeah, there was
almost
like
yeah,
there was a
like
frequency.
tinnitus or something.
Yeah,
There was a frequency, but then he didn't even die violently. He didn't like explode. The blood just came out slowly from Jesse's body, and he basically was just disintegrating.
You can see it in his eyes,
Yeah,
and
and
around
it's
his
just-
face.
That was an amazing scene.
Yeah, it was
That
very good.
Phenomenal. I was just like, fuck me.
Yeah.
That was a great scene. And then the bit after where Joe's going mad, 'cause he's like, you knew he was the fucking Rainmaker.
Yeah.
Basically, to kind of give a plot of what actually happens is the old Joe gets a number off someone in the future, and that number is a date of birth and a like code for a hospital. So basically, 3 children were born on that day in the hospital. So Joe's basically old Joe's going to kill all these 3 children because he can't like tell which one is going to be the Rainmaker, and he kills 2 of them. One of them's Maz, the Bordeaux Coyote Ugly, who I've never seen.
Young Joe was in a pseudo relationship
like
with.
She was like a prostitute
Yeah,
or whatever that he hired out. But no, because that's when old Joe sees her, he's like,
fuck.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even get to kill the kid because Boy Blue or Kid Blue was there with the taser or whatever. But anyway, that's what old Joe's doing. So young Joe has torn off a piece of old Joe's map, and he's going to protect Sid basically and try and kill his older self. Yeah,
They all have interesting arcs. Like old Joe,
They all do, yeah.
Old Joe was doing this out of love.
because he loves the woman, his
it-
wife.
And young Joe is almost doing it out of ambition, isn't he?
Yes, he's having a crisis of self because
Definitely.
he wants. There's actually a line in it. So do something to the effect of do what old men do and die.
Yeah.
A diner. He feels like he does not own his own course of actions. So
Can I say something that might be controversial?
always,
I was rooting for old Joe.
I can.
Is that okay?
I can completely understand.
Oh no,
why
I understand.
was.
Right, killing children is not sound.
Oh well, in some situation. Oh my god.
No. Right? But think about it, right? Think about it. You're 50 or 60. You've been with your wife for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're gonna die, and she's dead. Never see her again.
Mm.
But if you kill these 3 kids or 1 kid,
Well, he doesn't want to kill 3.
no, he
wants to
doesn't
kill
want to.
one.
He hopes
Yeah.
the first one he kills is the
Yeah.
one, but it's not. But if you kill a kid,
Yeah.
maximum 3. But the thing is, you'll instantly forget the memory of killing the child because that never happened because
it
you're
never
brought
happened,
back
yeah.
to the time when the Rainmaker never existed.
Well, you
So-
could argue then he wouldn't necessarily have
Any problem doing
had
it?
the wife then either. Like you
See, we're getting into the whole
yeah,
time
okay,
travel
yeah,
thing
yeah.
here.
But
We're
right?
getting into
basically, I was rooting for old Joe.
Yeah, I wasn't. But
Okay.
that's why he's a very compelling villain because I
Yeah,
completely
definitely.
understand why.
No, I wasn't like, yeah, kill that kid, Joe. Like, do you know what I mean? I was more like, don't kill his ma, Joe, and everybody will be sound.
Yeah.
If old Joe doesn't shoot Emily Blunt's character, Sid won't be pissed off. He'll still have a mammy until she dies of hopefully natural causes, and not turn into the Rainmaker, essentially.
He doesn't know that though.
Because he's, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
yeah. Things I didn't like. We're talking about that Boy Blue thing. His subplot. I felt his subplot was literally only to explain the very last scene. Because young Joe's there and he sees old Joe chasing Sarah and Sid through the things, but because the blunderbuss is terrible for a long range weapon, the only way he can do it is kill himself. I thought the Kid Blue subplot was literally just to explain that a blunderbuss had bad range. Because remember when he kind of tells him, he's like, oh,
Yeah,
God,
15
I need
paces.
to kill him and blah blah blah. I literally thought that was the only reason that whole subplot was just, that's why he can't just shoot him from far away. And I didn't really like it and didn't really care for it.
Yeah, I didn't care for it either.
No.
Oh.
Also,
Was it
I
relevant?
found the whole TK thing, the telekinesis, to be a whole kind of, what do you call it, a Deus Ex kind of thing, where it's literally lobbed in there because it's convenient. Oh, what can we make this villain kind of, the Rainmaker, I mean, is the villain. What can we, just give him a superpower.
Yeah.
And make him be able to destroy everything with his brain. And it's like, alright.
I do agree with you. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not saying already,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
agree with you. I thought it was kind of gimmicky,
Yeah.
a little bit. But what I did like was that, you know, you see Seth at the start and he's floating the coin,
Yeah.
and he thinks he's the business. You know,
I like
he
the way,
thinks he's
the way
great.
he explains it, where he's like, everybody thought they were going to get superpowers.
Yeah,
The best they
turned out
can
this
do
is
is
it.
flip a coin.
But then you see Emily Blunt after she's had her sexual relations with.
Didn't no need for that scene. That's
No need for that, yeah, and it felt really
Yeah, it was
forced, didn't
superfluous,
it?
yeah.
yeah. They
And
had
but
sex. They
she
had
is
sex.
fucking. She's spinning the lighter around like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good because then you can kind of see where Sid gets his powers from. You know, I thought that was pretty cool.
I like where she said she'd go to clubs and there'd be lads with TK trying to impress boards, and she'd stand nearby and counteract their powers. I was like, that's what I'd do if I died. But yeah, that whole sex scene was unnecessary. She could have just had a smoke and just done that, and explained that she had TK as well.
The direction was excellent.
Yes, Bruce Willis was good.
Yeah,
because he's not been good for a while.
No, he's been fucking dreck.
One of his, it was his probably his best movie of recent years.
Yeah, in the last 10 years even. Yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a great actor. Mm-hmm. Paul Dano wasn't playing either a paedophile or a fucking freak. He was just playing a normal bloke. Because he always just plays this guy who makes you feel really uneasy. And you're like, get the
I did like him in Little Miss Sunshine.
I haven't seen that, so I can't.
That is a great movie. I highly recommend it.
Like, you know, in like There Will Be Blood, where he plays the freaky pedo twin.
Preacher.
They're not actually pedos, but you just feel like they're pedos. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just feel uneasy thinking about them. Like,
I didn't like. This is going to sound really nitpicky. It might be hard to actually divulge as to why I didn't like, and this may actually feed into why you're having misgivings about the superstructure of the film. Mm-hmm. His older self is sent back to be murdered by Seth. Mm-hmm. It just feels like there's a few internal inconsistencies. So his older self is sent back, and he's singing a song from their mutual childhoods, and that was cool. Yeah, that was cool as fuck. But he runs off, and I think they have a term for it. You know, letting your loop run,
which is unimaginative at best. I think.
Yeah,
but it makes sense in like verbally, it makes sense, like letting a loop run, like because runs,
but it makes sense literally as well because you're letting him run away.
That's why it's not a real play on words.
Yeah. But he runs off, and basically for the plot, the younger Seth gets taken by Abe, who is Jeff Daniels' character, his gang. They get a doctor in, and the doctor starts maiming Seth. And young Seth, yes.
Which translates into...
Yeah, which is fine. And they actually start etching into his wrist, like a message. So, go to this location at this point. I didn't really understand... Now, I know this is going to sound ridiculously nitpicky, but I didn't understand why... You know, he went there and he started having memories of...
being sore.
Yeah, like he had an altered... He was from a different timeline.
Yeah.
And... Yeah.
Like, so I think what you're trying to say is... If this has happened to him in the past, how is he still the same?
Yeah, and how is he getting maimed on the way? And you know, wouldn't his memories have changed over the course of time? Yeah, and then
that's always going to be time travel movies.
I get that, but it's not as neat as Terminator 2.
Yeah. Well,
and that feeds into the end, the very end. Now,
what did you like about it?
What did you like about it?
What did I like?
Yeah.
I thought Joe's arc was absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, nothing is more compelling than a good villain.
Can I just... Sorry, I kind of forgot to mention it when I was giving my review. I really want to see a movie about Joe when he was in China.
That'd be pretty good.
You know those scenes where he has that like manga haircut and he's doing this whole shooting thing.
There's a real Akira influence in this film.
I was like, I want to see that film in this. I want to see Looper 2 Cruise Control or whatever.
Looper 2 Zero, because it's
you could call it that. But I really like the scene where you're watching Joe grow up basically, or grow older. I was like, that's actually show me more of that, because that looked fucking badass.
Yes, it did.
Sorry, go
on. So like I was saying, I thought Jeff Daniels was supreme. I just thought, oh god, like you're gripped. That you remember the part where it was Kid Blue put his hand out the desk and he whacked it with a hammer.
That was his gat hand, so he couldn't fire his weapon.
I thought the weaponry was actually excellent. I thought the look of the Gat Men was great. So basically that was an East meets West kind of vibe. So
yeah, exactly.
There's a very heavy Western tone throughout the film, as well as Eastern. So the Gat Men, their weaponry is obviously you know like 6 shooters. I just love the care that went into absolutely every scene. I thought the direction throughout was excellent. Do you remember when young Joe was falling from his apartment?
Yeah, the camera it's brilliant.
It's
very
great.
good.
It was like a strap-on camera, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how they did it now, but it looked brilliant.
It was good.
I thought what's the kid's name again? Sorry,
Sid.
Sid. I love how there's the trope of the precocious little kid, but he was fucking great. I had no problem with it. Yeah. And he played a demigod, believably. Think about that.
Usually I hate child actors.
Stop.
Or just spoil it.
I can't emphasise enough how impressed I was with his acting abilities.
He's the best child actor since Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 1. I'm kind of saying that sarcastically, but also not.
I know what you mean.
You take what you want from that.
How am I going to apply that? Right. I thought there was a very interesting dynamic between old Joe in this and Sarah Connor in Terminator 2.
Explain.
They're bitter.
They're both willing to become monstrous for love. So for a loved one.
Oh, that's good.
So
I did not know that.
So in a very kind of niche kind of way, basically when you start hunting down monsters, be careful not to become a monster yourself.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yes,
that is.
I'm paraphrasing there.
Is it like that Dark Knight quote that everybody doesn't shut the fuck up about?
What's that one?
About being the hero or being the villain?
No. I think it's more like if you stare too long into the abyss.
Beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
shivers here.
Yeah. So
yes. That's good. That's good.
So
shit.
Obviously,
shit.
So yeah, I mean, old Joe was just excellent, and he's having a crisis throughout. So basically, when he, as Graham was saying, he actually killed two kids unnecessarily. He was devastated. But
the first kid he killed, he was crying his eyes out and all. Yeah,
he was visibly distraught. Loved it.
He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
What you were saying earlier, that is a fucking excellent villain.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of counter to what you believe is the right thing.
I don't even know if you can really call him a true villain.
No, but he's definitely the antagonist of the movie.
Yeah.
He is. That's completely true. But then I wouldn't call him an anti-hero either. He's very you can at least sympathize. Is that the right word for it? You can at least see where he's coming from.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
It's not like, when a villain, I want to rule the world and kill everybody. You're like, I can understand completely. Like, you're killing for love, basically, which is like probably, I don't know,
on the scale,
on the scale
of justifiable killings,
justifiable homicide. I think love is there just under self-defense. So. I don't know if I'll stand up in court.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. If I ever get stung for that, I'm going to use this podcast.
Just murdering a random person. Why did you do it? Nobody. But this person has nothing to do with the person you love.
My love.
Shut up, I love her.
Also, Looper, it never happened.
Or did it? It's not 2044 yet.
True. Yet. The effects are great.
The effects are fantastic.
Yeah, earlier on, Dave mentioned it was only 30 million for the plot, or for the budget. Like fucking hell, everything's just.
T2 was like
so
over 3 times as much.
94, and T2, while grossed over 500, this movie grossed a kind of a comparatively lackluster 176.6.
That's kind of I'm kind of sad about that.
Yeah,
like,
but it still has the exact same rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 93%.
Is it in the top 250?
I didn't check that
on IMDb. I don't think it's in the top 250 IMDb. Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, because I was actually looking at that today. I was just looking at which actors are in the most, and it's Harrison Ford and Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Harrison Ford is fantastic.
Both have, I think, 8 films on the top 250 on IMDb, which is fair enough because they're both brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something else there for some reason. I don't know why.
They're both racist. No, but yeah, it's kind of a bit sad that it didn't make a bigger shitload from a really good story.
It might have been a sleeper hit in a way. You know?
Yeah. Like, this could be one of those kind of movies that you come back to in a few years, or that people come back to in a few years and they're like, oh, that's fucking excellent.
It is. It's a really good film. Yeah.
I loved oh my god, the execution scenes were just excellent.
Yeah.
Remember, the opening is they're in Kansas, and Joe's just waiting on his next hit,
and his pocket watch.
Yeah, and it's
great kind of visuals.
Yeah,
and it's to the second, like it's
or when Seth is doing it. It's in this kind of grimy industrial area.
It's almost like it's almost like an abandoned building site or something.
Everything just you know, you compare that to a CGI fest like one of the Star Wars prequels, which are just fucking awful anyway, obviously, but just you know, it's science fiction and it's somewhat based in.
But it's science fiction, but it doesn't take the piss in the sense of there's not like. Now, don't get me wrong. Flying cars are in Back to the Future too, and that's a fucking unreal film.
Yes,
but I mean that's
an unreal film for different.
That's
reasons,
an adventure comedy though,
yeah.
As opposed to this this serious take on sci-fi, and it's not like, you know, it literally just looks like the same as today, except a few different, like, it's in bits, like, but I mean, it doesn't look bizarre or like, you know, like if you look at, again, this is also a good film, but it looks like a different place, like Blade Runner, for instance.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
It looks like you could go outside and it would be like the Looper world, except obviously the few, like the hover bike or whatever. But it generally looks the same. Like she lives on a farm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like she lives.
She still talks with her country accent.
Yeah,
like, you know,
it's not like she has robots like ploughing the fields and, you know, like a flying maid.
And Sid's toys, they're just
they're toys.
They're toys we would have had during our childhood.
But that's why actually I love that about modern sci-fi movies though. Like even like Back to the Future 2. When was that? When was that released? What? Like
89.
89.
Yeah.
And they had this completely unrealistic view. And now again, it's a bit of a piss take, but like even a few movies like Blade Runner, take that. They have a completely unrealistic view of the future. But modern sci-fi movies are a lot more kind of grounded. They realise that progress doesn't happen that fast.
And people don't dress like fucking retards either.
And it's a lot more gritty because of that.
Although, in saying that,
well, people do.
The
arguably
cap
like
that Biff and his gang wear, you know, like, it's like a metal cap. I've actually definitely seen someone wear that.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
That's going to upset me.
Okay, sorry, No, but
so Dave obviously was that.
Dave obviously wore that shit cap.
No, that's what upset you. I don't. Back yourself into a corner.
I can't wait to do a Back to the Future film on one of these. But anyway,
Anyway, any kind of detractions from it, or?
Yeah, so I was kind of talking about the internal inconsistencies. Right, to pan over. Older Seth was sent back. He is getting surgically taken apart due to younger Seth being abducted earlier on. He's fallen apart in the car, and don't get me wrong, it was shot excellently. It was really,
it looked really good.
It was really
evocative. I was like, almost on the sense of when he gets out of the car,
the dread,
and then his leg disappears, and then his other, and he just turns into this nothing.
So it's so effective, and he knew the end was coming.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sound like a prick. Like, it was great, but then later on, at the end of the film, when younger Joe kills himself, and look, again, it was a beautiful idea, but older Joe just disappeared. It's like that. You haven't really set that up. Like, why is he just disappearing? Like, wasn't he a corpse?
Well, he never existed. Older Joe never existed because he died.
Why didn't he? But you could argue that.
Well, the other guy was still alive when he was being mutated, though. Seth's older version was still alive when he was being mutated, and then he was killed.
Why did he shoot
when Kid Blue came out and shot him?
Why not just shoot younger?
That's what I was just going to say.
That's another plot hole altogether.
Why not just get young Seth, blow his head off, and the old one will just disappear?
And be done with it.
Look, or why do they have to be like, you know, that just opens a different kind of worms. The point of this film is that a young guy has to kill his older self ultimately, and the mechanism for doing so is time travel. What goes with that is, you know, unfortunately, it can be a bit lacking in terms of plot consistency. But you know, you're okay with that. Like, it's an excellently shot, beautiful film.
It's a necessary plot hole. I wouldn't even call it a hole, but like a plot kind of a weak part of the plot.
It had to be
because it makes the story more interesting,
and it's its own stamp on time travel as well.
Yeah,
like I seem to have a running issue with ears tonight because Joseph Gordon-Levitt's ears weren't prosthetically altered either, so his ears are different to
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Can I point out the thing I would nitpick out?
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is left-handed. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is right-handed.
Well spotted.
Yeah, I didn't spot that.
Well spotted.
I only noticed this because it pisses me off in every Bruce Willis film where he's holding the gun left-handed. I'm like, you look like a freak. You proddy bastard. What? So they used to, back in the day, in this country anyway, this stupid country, like if you're left-handed in school, they used to beat the devil out of you because you were a proddy.
That's correct. Yeah.
So if you're left-handed,
sorry, it's not correct.
It's what happened. Yeah. It's not. You're not a proddy and possessed with the devil because you're left-handed. you're just left-handed.
Or maybe you are, who knows?
But basically, like in Die Hard, Bruce Willis always holds like a two-handed gun on his left side, and I noticed he the shootout in the diner. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's shooting out with his right hand, and Joe's on the deck, and he shoots the window with his left hand and jumps out. And I was like, "You look like him, but just put it. One of you put it in the hand. Like,
it can't be that hard.
Come on,
Not even
guys,
shooting real bullets."
Yeah, yeah. That was, but again, nitpicking, and you're not really gonna notice it. But still,
like if that's the extent of our issues with the film,
that one lad is different.
Yeah.
Maybe he broke his hand when he was 40 and he has to use his. I don't know.
Maybe he's ambidextrous.
Yeah. Well, he did because later on Bruce Willis uses his right hand when he's slaying all the Gap men. Then he goes back to his left hand to kill a few other people.
Isn't there it's amazing that one of the main themes in this film is abandonment, and Joe never really had a family other than
because his mother was killed by vagrants.
Yeah, so
I didn't even cop that bit.
His older self actually becomes something of a father figure in a way.
Yeah,
scolds him in the diner. I just thought that was just such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So would I recommend it? Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. See Looper.
Cool. So I guess it's probably time the part of the show now where we make our judgment. Which movie is going to come out as the victor?
Mildred.
Huh?
Don't ask.
Fair enough.
I guess. Graham, do you want to go first? Let us know which one you think is the better movie of the two.
So I'm gonna try and do this in a sense of like what I thought Looper did better than Terminator 2 and what I thought Terminator 2 did better than Looper. Right, so this is going to be kind of difficult in fairness because this is a very different comparison to Blair Witch and the Devil Inside.
This is an actual comparison.
This is
a legit comparison.
Two contenders, two people who have legitimacy. Basically, not people but films. But if you're, you know what I mean. Yeah. I thought Looper was a lot more of a serious film, and I know you said earlier you didn't like some of the acting in Looper, and that's probably fair enough especially from your man Kid Blue. That's kind of who you're. But I
think that's who I was specifically talking about.
But I thought the acting in Looper might have been a bit better than T2 in the sense of it wasn't Edward Furlong.
Yeah, the main character wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. But you know what I mean. They were Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis and Emily and fucking the four of them. The four main people.
The four main people were amazing. They were out of the park.
And I thought they were better than Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, and T-1000 because that's his name. That will always be his name. Yeah. Even in
any other movie he's in, it's T-1000.
Even when he was in the last two seasons of the X-Files, it was what's her name? What's the board's name from? Not Dana Scully, her actual name.
Gillian Anderson,
and then it would say T-1000. That's what it was.
What, like played by Gillian Anderson?
No, sorry, actually, I need to. A complete thing I forgot about it. Yeah. You know what makes T-1000 mad intimidating? He's not big and bulky like Arnie. He's a Joe Soap looking bloke.
Yeah.
He just looks like a normal.
That's why the twist was great.
That makes him more intimidating, I feel, because you see this big, bulky bodybuilder bloke and you're like, well, he can obviously smash me head in. But then you see this lad who just looks like your mate and it's like, grand, and then all of a sudden he's got two hooks for hands.
Yeah. Fuck off Ado with your hands.
Yeah.
Ado.
But, so I thought the acting of Looper was ever so slightly superior to T2. But the rest is kind of like it's incomparable.
Comparable.
Yeah, because like the CGI is different, and I'd say the Looper premise is more original. Although maybe not, because it's someone coming back in time to kill a kid, which is exactly what happens in T2. So there's a kind of that's the connection. That's the reason why we're comparing them. But I think overall, this is very close.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
Gee, I know. I'm giving the decision. My vote goes for Terminator 2: Judgment Day being the superior film. I might be biased because it's been out for 21 years and I've seen it for I've watched it God knows how many times in my life. And
at least once a year.
Yeah. And if someone's watching it, I'm probably jealous of them watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone goes, oh yeah, I'll be like, I'm in work, what are you doing? I'm watching Terminator 2.
You fucker.
I'll be like, I'm at home doing nothing. What are you doing? watching Terminator, fuck you.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
You could watch it, but no, you'd rather be angry.
I'd rather be angry at him for watching it without me, because I want to be watching Terminator.
Why did you invite me?
So Terminator 2, but in saying that, Looper is still a great film and a recommended watch.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, fucking watch it. And if you haven't seen T2,
where have you been for the past 24 years?
Get up on your roof and just off you go. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I agree.
How could you not have seen Terminator 2? Even
you're not listening to the right show if you've not seen Terminator 2.
Exactly.
You can fuck yourself.
Exactly. Go fuck yourself is exactly what I say. I think that's really, like, we nitty picky bits is like I said, you know, why are you crying, and then I know everything about the human anatomy, and then the whole right hand left hand job in Looper. That's kind of where it ends. I didn't really like that sex scene, as I said before, in Looper. Or it wasn't even a sex scene, it was just implied they had sex. That was kind of forced. Everything else I thought was great.
Yeah.
I didn't, like I said, I didn't like the comedy in T2, but it's forgivable because it's early 90s and the cheese is off the cheese scale. So T2 is
I've got an image of
the cheese
scale.
XY axis.
Just from like easy singles are on the bottom, and then like
mozzarella or something.
No,
I love mozzarella.
A nice brie would be on the top.
Fuck brie.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Right.
Give
us your vote anyway.
Next one versus easy singles versus
brie. Mozzarella. Easy singles is the bottom. The devil inside is an easy single. Right?
Okay.
Mozzarella and brie are the top dogs.
Cool. I'll go next year. Again, this is such a difficult one to call. Terminator.
Surprisingly,
2.
because I don't.
I know. Yeah, you think it's gonna run away with it, obviously, but like Looper has so many good qualities about it. Like it's just a really, really enjoyable movie with I know, like, it obviously has a similar premise, going back in time to kill a kid to stop something from happening in the future. But the plot that's wrapped around that concept is so original, and like Kev was saying, like having to come to terms with killing your future self. It's a real kind of thought provoker, I think. And then on the other hand, you have like Terminator 2. That's just like, it's iconic. And there's some, like, I was watching that movie and I was thinking to myself, okay, here comes this bit now where he says get down. Or here comes this bit now where he says whatever, or here comes this great bit, this great fucking cinematography here, like, you know.
You're a 10-year-old again seeing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm finding it very difficult to separate the nostalgic view of what admittedly is still a fantastic movie in 2015 versus what is a great movie released 3 years ago. And I'm almost kind of half tempted to give Looper my vote. Partly because it's a fucking amazing movie, and partly because just to kind of give the next give Kev's verdict a bit of suspense. You know. So we have Looper.
I actually haven't seen either of them.
Did you go you went for Looper?
No, I haven't thrown my weight anywhere yet.
By the way, Graham looks disgusted.
But I'm gonna have to give.
But Looper is a great film, like I said. But
yeah. No, it's Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the better movie. I found it more enjoyable, almost heartwarming to a certain extent, especially with the relationship between John and Terminator as a father figure kind of thing. I thought that was a lot more prominent than the old Joe versus young Joe father figure dynamic.
It's even pointed out.
Yeah, this will be. He'll never beat him. He'll never
randomly narrated by.
Which is one thing I didn't like about Terminator.
Yeah, it was a bit heavy-handed.
Yeah, but anyway, we're past that point.
Well,
Terminator 2 gets my vote.
But like she says, he'll never beat him. He'll never like drink and come home. Blah blah blah. But
never say he has no time for him.
But I was like
an Al Pacino speech.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, one thing is his old lad was dead before he was born, so that didn't happen. I was like, but then why were you hanging around with little alcohols, you freak?
Yeah.
Like, what if she's trying to make all these like...
She's obviously traumatised though.
Well, she's trying to make all these military mates for when the big Judgment Day happens. But don't hang around with lads who'll beat him up. Like, that's not how you raise your son. Actually, you should probably be in that mental asylum. Just for that fact, never mind the...
I think Sarah Connor is
Terminator.
mental anyway.
Ah, she is, yeah.
She is mental anyway.
Remember the bit... And I
She was a
actually
19-year-old girl. Like, that was...
That's meant... That's
She meant to be 19 in the
She's
No.
29 in the second one.
She's 29 in the second
Silverman
one.
says at the start he's 29-year-old female. And I even that caught me off guard. I was like, 29?
No, but then is the first one 83?
84, I think.
Right.
I could be wrong.
That still means she's like 20, hardly anything. Like,
Yeah, but like it doesn't need to be the exact amount of years from movie release.
Oh, true, yeah.
She was
No,
traumatized.
It's a hurry.
Yeah. Christ.
So yeah, Terminator 2 gets
Well,
my
10
vote
years,
anyway.
she would have been 19 when she fell pregnant with John Connor.
You have to get... Okay. Terminator 2 is more of an action film. You have to think about what these films are setting out to do. I think Terminator 2 is
Definitely more action.
setting out to be I don't want to make this sound harsh. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle.
It is,
yeah.
Of course
you
it
know,
is.
I have no problem with that. Like, you know, like a Predator, Commando.
Jingle All the Way.
Oh yeah, that got
Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. You know.
If you're me, then who am I?
Is that on Total Recall?
That's Total Recall, yeah. Put the cookie down!
Who told you to eat my cookies?
It's not a tumor.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah.
Remember those old Arnold
Put the
Schwarzenegger
toys
soundboards?
back! There's actually a band called Austrian Death Machine.
Yeah,
and they're a metal band, and they just have albums that are all based on Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes. It's fucking dead.
Do you know
the
they
song?
broke up? Do you want to know why?
Because one of them said he didn't like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, because he is. I think he was convicted of attempted murder
Oh shit.
of his wife.
Oh,
There you go.
He's in Azalite or
Azkaban. Is he in Azkaban?
as I they die.
Oh yeah. Because it was like a super group. Like they were all people from bands. But yeah, they have a song called like
Get to the chopper.
"Get to the Chopper."
Oh, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None more brutal. How more brutal could this be? None more brutal.
Like that's the influence of Arnie.
The fact that a lot of lads who are relatively successful in metal, which you're not going to get mainstream with metal these days.
No,
but
I
relatively
can
successful
attest to that, by the way.
Yeah.
Quit.
But basically, they decided to make a band based on this man's quotes,
Yes.
and release albums and songs based on a single actor's quotes. Is like that shows the legacy that Arnold Schwarzenegger has, and the Terminator especially.
Ridiculously so.
Anyway.
Sorry,
we completely
Yeah, tangent. This is alright.
We'll come back to Arnold Schwarzenegger inspired death metal bands later. But
After this commercial break.
so Terminator 2 was set out to be an action film. Arnold Schwarzenegger, vehicle. I think Looper was actually trying to set out to say a lot more. It wasn't necessarily an action film. I think it was more setting up a story with the dynamic between
There wasn't
older and
so
younger
much
Joe.
action.
No, there certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't miss it. It's not like I'm going. I need more.
No, yeah.
Evisceration right now.
Why aren't they having a 6-minute shootout? Like, yeah, you didn't need that.
Yeah, I'll be.
Well, there was quite a bit of action.
Yeah,
in
no,
it, though,
definitely. But
It wasn't to
by
the same
comparison to
level.
Terminator 2.
No way.
There were a lot less set pieces, but when they did action, it was obviously great. I think, like I was saying earlier, I think Terminator 2 was probably neater, but at the same time, it was trying to say a lot less. Whereas Looper was, I think it set out to basically show a lot more arcs. And while we're saying some of the characters are utterly redundant, like Boy Blue, I think I've failed to recall his name 6 or 7 times.
Is it Boy Blue or
how
Kid
poor a
Blue?
character
Young
was.
fella blue, lad
Fella
blue,
Bloke Blue,
bloke blue,
Blue Wonder,
chump fella blue,
John Player Blue,
Tom player blue,
Chubba Chup Blue,
Mr. Freeze blue,
Pokemon Blue.
Pokemon blue,
Blue Cheese.
blue balls.
That'd be actually fairly high up on the blue cheese
Yeah,
scale,
actually.
or the cheese scale. Wouldn't be top dog now, but it'd be a good
Yeah,
a nice 80%.
yeah. Percentile.
Percentile, yeah.
So then, you have to remember the legacy of Terminator 2 had. For example, when the T-1000's chasing after the car with the T-800, and Sarah and John in it, and he's running after the car with his I suppose almost like
Rakes or something, almost like
Oh, they'd be like
Hooks.
I call them like hooks, but they'd be like, I suppose, like a bent sword.
Sharp.
He's just
bent
got these.
swords.
He's just got these large, like fish hooks. Let's say like to be like big sharp prongs.
For that to be echoed in The Simpsons, shows how, you know, when Homer's trying to befriend
if
Ned.
He's gaining on his daddy.
Yes.
if you're referenced within the first, let's say, 12 seasons of The Simpsons,
you know you did
you're
well.
worthwhile.
Yes.
After that, you're probably just Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. Or Donald Trump.
Yeah. Or Metallica.
Or some kind of mix of all the above. Oh God, think about
Card Trump Talica.
that. Well done.
Yeah, I was really struggling there.
Yeah. I was going to say something there. Shit.
You were going on about the Simpsons reference and that's how big the film was.
That was before that.
Okay.
Fine.
Sorry,
Whatever, Kev.
Yeah, I know you're trying to help me out, but you have to remember who you're dealing with here. And I am a prick. Okay, in terms of what I watch more, definitely Terminator 2. What I enjoy more, probably Terminator 2.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought you were going to say Looper there.
Yeah, I think
that was just like a...
Yeah,
That's where was it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
What I think is better, though.
Yeah.
As a film?
I'm very, very divided about this.
Okay.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Stuff
matter.
like,
Terminator
I think,
2. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
True. Okay, answer me this.
Yeah.
How did the T-1000 go back in time if they set it up that it has to have living flesh on the outside?
How did he appear as his original form?
So they sent the Terminator back because he was covered in living flesh.
That's the only way you could go.
Well, there's a whole thing.
Is that an
set
epic,
in,
or
there's a whole
is
thing
that
set in the precedent of the T-1000 as the mnemonic liquid metal or whatever, that he needs to be able to touch something before he can look like it, right?
Yeah.
And we don't see the T-1000 arriving. We just see him killing the cop. When
he's in the sphere, is he not?
No, that's Arnie.
No, is he
that's
not
Arnie.
naked?
He is
He's
naked.
naked, but we don't see him.
So
actually arriving, we just see the born in the fence.
I don't want to sound ultra pedantic, but is that not after the fact that he's time travelled?
He's arrived.
But we don't know if he arrived looking like T-1000.
He could have arrived and then found some poor schmuck.
Okay, I'm saying really, but the operative word there is looking. He's looking like someone.
Yeah.
He's not made of.
How do we know they haven't updated their time travel?
Okay, true.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's been 10 years since a Terminator has been sent back.
But it feels like that's a pretty fundamental part they should be explaining, whereas at least in Looper they gave us the explanation that there is no explanation.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a fob off.
So,
it's like it's almost like saying, fuck it, just enjoy the movie for what it is, isn't it? Like,
so...
But then you can also go, how did they create a liquid that can also solidify?
It's sci-fi.
Wheel.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Where's
sci-fi,
all the...
It's sci-fi.
Yeah.
Science fiction. So, yeah, it's unanimous. We're going to have to go Terminator 2.
Cool. So there we have it, folks. Terminator 2 beats out Looper by unanimous decision.
But can we give a disclaimer that
Looper
is still a very good film and we recommend you watch it. This isn't like...
Very few films would beat it.
Yeah,
like,
this isn't a whitewash where Terminator 2 shits all over Looper. Like, they dig the head off each other and then T2 just came out on top.
Yeah.
So, watch both films, but mainly T2.
Cool. So that wraps up the second episode of Versus. But guys, before we finish up, I just thought maybe we could talk about what we're watching at the moment. Any thoughts or opinions on what you guys are up to at the moment? Any TV shows or movies?
Any TV shows?
Just a quick roundup.
I'm currently watching The Blacklist, which I'd explain to you two is like a Die Hard TV show, so it's not to be taken seriously at all.
Mm-hmm.
The action obviously isn't to the level of Die Hard where everything's blown, but it's like, you know, like in the latest episode, which had Ron Perlman in it because he's sound.
What a head!
Yeah, definitely.
Such a jaw.
No, my brother
Cinderblock.
No, my brother wouldn't know who Ron Perlman is, and he was sitting there when I was watching the episode.
I don't know who your brother is either. So
yeah.
Okay.
But he goes.
That was a bit passive aggressive.
Well, I don't know who your brother is.
Apologies.
But he goes. He literally the first thing he said was, "Size of his fucking head," because it's huge. But they're on a Black Ops prison site, and the government call in a strike to wipe it out, but there's agents there, obviously. But handily enough, the only people to survive are like 3 agents, Ron Perlman's character, and the main character, the Blacklist, who is a criminal turned FBI informant, but for his own gains. That's basically the gist of the entire series. But it's good. It's good if you like, you know, brainless action. Yeah, brainless action.
I do.
Don't like if you're into nitpicking shows. Don't go near it. Because I find myself doing that. I was like, how the fuck did he survive that? But then I'm like, next episode. Yeah, you know,
can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. But
I'm currently watching Fear the Walking Dead. Have either of you seen it?
No, I haven't watched any of The Walking Dead, so
it's worth a watch.
Yeah, it's worth your time.
Yeah. But I have to say, I am severely let down by Fear the Walking Dead. They promised this whole like the start of the collapse of civilization.
Yeah.
And then they introduced the whole zombie plague, and then they skip forward
to just being The Walking Dead again.
It's about the military are still in control, but they're just about in control,
right?
And they're just about to fall apart. And that's the last 3 episodes. You don't actually see
they kind of left. Yeah.
And I'm like,
do many of the actors who are in like season 1 at the end of that?
No, it's a completely new cast.
Not even
it's set on the other side of the country. It's set in LA.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Like it's enjoyable to watch because I find myself kind of screaming at the TV. It's like, don't fucking go in there. There's definitely gonna be a zombie. Why don't you have a torch? Will you fucking just grab a fucking machete or something?
Absolute tropes, like let's go in this dark room with nothing to protect ourselves.
In that sense, it kind of feels like the showrunners know what they're doing. But yeah, no, it's I'm the season finale is this week, and I'm gonna watch it. I'm definitely
gonna watch it because you've watched the rest of it.
Exactly. But overall,
you tell me you wouldn't recommend.
I would recommend it for fans of The Walking Dead just to actually get in on the kind of just because it's another part of the franchise. Really.
Yeah, it's a spin-off.
Is it a worthy part of the franchise though?
Definitely not.
Well,
definitely not.
See, I actually,
especially when you. Well, I'm kind of equating it against. I'm including the comics in the franchise as well, which are fucking excellent.
I must read them.
Way better than the TV show.
Way better than the TV show, in my opinion. Yeah. What about you, Kev? What do you?
I'm not really watching much TV at the moment. During the week, actually, I was lucky enough to be taken to the cinema during work by my CEO, which is pretty cool. So I went to see The Martian. So they booked out a cinema screen for us.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Like, it was a bit surreal.
Give me a job.
I'd love that.
Okay.
Can I come?
Please do, yeah. So it was just surreal. Like, you know, they're giving out popcorn and just what? They're like half 40.
How many of us were there?
39.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was really quaint.
And what did you make of the movie?
I actually really liked it. Yeah. I must say, I really liked it.
Dave, you've read the book, yeah?
I have read the book. I love the book. I love the book. But I'm afraid to see the movie.
I'll tell you what, now, going in, because I don't have the prior experience of having read the book, I think as a film, it's great to see Ridley Scott finally doing science fiction well again.
Properly, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, as opposed to his last few blunders.
Prometheus now,
Blunderbuss.
Yeah.
Blunderbuss.
Like Prometheus, whatever he set out to do there didn't really come across very well. And Matt Damon, you could argue he's just Matt Damon in absolutely every film.
I love Matt Damon.
Yeah, but
I think he's brilliant.
I happen to like that.
Like Matt Damon.
Yeah,
should do what I said about not seeing T2 and get up on the roof.
Yeah,
that's a bit drastic.
No, fuck that. I would get behind that more than I would T2.
What? Fuck you, let's get up on the roof and fight.
I mean, I agree with you, is what I'm saying.
I think Matt Damon he's probably the most...
He's probably just broken.
He's probably the most normal person in Hollywood.
Yeah,
he's just grounded. But this film, it's just... Normally, you may or may not have noticed I have a bit of a dark, cynical sense of humour, but this film is just so hopeful throughout, and I had no problem with that.
He's a great character, isn't he?
He's a great
character. Mark Watney's his name, isn't it?
I haven't seen either or read anything, so
cool.
We
won't.
No.
It's also the new movie as well.
He's filled with hope, and it's just so witty. There's one line where he says something to the effect of, "Yes, I did eat potatoes grown in my own shit." Yeah, and it's just lines like that. It's just really witty. Great film. Yeah, really good.
Cool.
Really well done.
Right, so I think we'll call that at that, guys. If you're interested, go to www.facebook.com/versus podcast Ireland and give us now a like-a-roo. get the most up to date updates and news and things like that. So we'll see you in the next episode of Versus 3.
Bye bye. Slán.
Good luck.
See you later.